After traveling to over 20 European countries, here are the essential things I learned that you need to know before visiting Europe. Book your flights as early as you can. The closer you get to the trip, the more expensive it is. Rule of thumb is to always book at least 2 months before. Once you get too close to the travel day, the prices start going up because they price them higher for all business travelers. Eat as much local food as you can. There's nothing better than having a pizza in Italy or a croissant in France. And each country has their own unique food. So if you want the best food in each country, eat local. Now the best way to find local food is by eating street food. Street food is usually much cheaper and also better quality than the food you would find at a restaurant. So eat as much street food as you can. Take advantage of all free museums and attractions. Lots of places in Europe are free on certain days or at certain times, so make sure you figure that out and go then. Pretty much every museum, attraction, or anything else is cheaper for people under 18 or EU citizens under 25, so make sure you take advantage of that if you are in those age ranges. There's so many train stations that have nobody there to help you, so make sure you're using the Deutschbahn app to figure out what platform and what train you need to take. And if you're going to be traveling by train, check out the video in my description where I talk about everything that has to do with traveling Europe by train. If you're choosing your train route, make sure to choose routes with a layover. Train stations are usually in city centers, so you can explore a city that you wouldn't expect to see if you choose a layover, and it could also save you on reservation fees. Some countries in Europe need a visa before you go. There's usually a 90-day or 180-day visa, but I know you need a visa in the UK for something a bit shorter than that. Make sure you're doing a lot of research for this trip. If you're a budget traveler or don't want to miss out on anything in Europe, make sure you're spending a lot of time planning a good itinerary. Or you can even just shoot me a message. When you're in a country that doesn't use euros, they usually accept euros anyways, but I would still recommend using the currency of the country that you're in because they mark up the prices if you want to use euros. If you're going to be traveling around a few countries and you want to get a SIM card, the best option will be to get an EU SIM card. Buying train tickets as early in advance as possible is essential. Train tickets come out 90 days in advance, and they get more and more expensive as they sell more tickets and get closer to the travel day. Even if you plan on using the Eurail Pass, some seat reservations need to be mailed to your house, so you're gonna have to book those early as well. Make sure you have an adapter for European plugs. They're different than the ones they use in North America, and also the UK has a separate plug than Europe does. Pack as light as you can. Chances are when you go on your trips, you usually don't end up using everything in your luggage. Packing light is a lifesaver when you're backpacking because you're going to be using your bag all the time. Make sure to create a budget before you go. When you travel, you like to buy a lot of things that you normally wouldn't buy here. While it's really fun to do that, there's a lot of things you end up buying that you never ever use, or you're gonna regret spending money on it. It's great to set aside a certain amount of money for each day, but don't go overboard with this as well, because you might end up not being able to do any experiences you wanted to do. And also bring emergency money. There's so many times that something will come up that you didn't expect at all, and having that extra money in your pocket is always gonna help you out in those situations. Buying food from grocery stores is a great way to see what the locals are eating and also save a lot of money. This way you can try some local food and local pastries that you might not be able to find at a restaurant. Personally, I recommend using a backpack over a luggage if you're going to be hopping in between cities. I find it much easier to carry on a backpack than lugging your luggage over the cobblestone streets. And if you're getting a backpack, make sure it's a comfy one because you're going to be using it all day. I'm going to link a few of my favorite bags in the description, so check those out. Talking to locals is a great way to learn more about the city and the culture. They'll also tell you about places that you probably haven't heard before, and these could lead to the best memories of your trip. Try to fit everything in just one carry-on bag. Having a personal item is a great way to fit more items, but having 2 backpacks is much harder than just having one. And Katya and I realized this when we were traveling for a long time with 2 backpacks. Luggage lockers are great for when you have a layover in a city. They have them in most train stations and usually they're pretty cheap. This way you can just leave your bag in the station and not worry about it while traveling around the city for a few hours. One of the main decisions you're gonna have to make is how you're gonna get around from city to city. Usually for budget travelers, it's gonna be a combination of both trains and buses. But there are also a lot of flights within Europe that can be found for cheap as well. If you're using train, you also need to decide if you want to get a rail pass or just buy individual tickets. There's a lot that goes into that decision, and I'm gonna have a whole video on whether or not you need to use a pass or not and which one is more worth it for you. Pickpockets are very active in popular destinations, and they're especially active at train stations and at the most popular attractions in the city. Make sure everything of value is somewhere hidden where you know someone won't get to it, and just try to keep an eye out as well. There's a lot of popular scams too. I know Paris has a few, like fake taxis and also fake parents. There's also a few random ones where people are just gonna ask you to sign something and never sign anything. And just be cautious. If something feels wrong, then just don't do it. This one kind of relates to the talking to locals tip above, but don't just stick to the touristy spots in every city. You're gonna find out so much more about the culture and the city by just getting out of the touristy areas, and you're not gonna be stuck in massive crowds the entire time. I have so many vlogs on places around Europe where I show you everything you can do outside of these touristy spots, so check those out as well when you subscribe to my channel. Try to make reservations as early in advance as possible. So many places in Europe are the most popular travel destinations in the world, which means lots of people want to go to the same places that you want to go to. Making reservations early saves you from being disappointed later and finding out that there's no more spots available. So try to make those reservations as early as you can. If you have a chance, visit countries or cities that you've never heard of before or you know nothing about. This is the best way to see something you would never expect and figure out a lot about a new country that no one else you know knows. These places almost always surprise people and become someone's most underrated destination. Not everyone speaks English, even though it is pretty common around the continent. Try to learn some basic words in each language so it's easier to communicate with people when you're in that country. People also love when you try to speak their language, so saying a few words at a restaurant or to a bus driver will really make them happy and laugh. Overnight trains are really useful for saving you money and also getting you far. This will cover accommodation and transportation in one cost, and you won't waste time from sightseeing since you're gonna be asleep anyways. When you're at a restaurant and you want to order water, make sure to ask for tap water, because when you order water, they're going to assume you want bottled water and you have to pay for bottled water. Unless you want bottled water, then just ignore that. Floor 0 is the ground floor and floor 1 is the level above the ground floor, which is different from North America. Unless you're in tourist hotspots or really popular train stations, you should be able to find a place to pee for free. I know there's a lot of paid bathrooms and restaurant owners that don't want to let you go, but usually you can find a McDonald's or some other fast food chain where you'll be able to pee for free. Or you can just ask a restaurant owner really nicely if you can go there. Wise is a really useful app where you can exchange money for free and also use it as a debit card. I know I said do a lot of research, but also don't plan too much for one day. Leave yourself some time to enjoy a random thing you see on the street, watch a little show sometimes, or spend some time talking to people, or just sitting down somewhere and just enjoying the view or having a good meal. And it's never fun if you're always in a rush to get somewhere, because you're gonna burn yourself out throughout the trip. I do still recommend to be thorough in your planning, and you should plan the things that you want to do, but just don't select a rough time where you need to get everywhere. Allow some time for you to be spontaneous as well. So if something comes up, you're able to do it. Public transit in almost any city you can think of is really good and will be able to take you anywhere you want. And it's usually pretty cheap as well. One thing to note about using public transit though is to make sure you validate your tickets before heading onto the train or bus. Because when someone comes around and your ticket isn't validated, you're gonna have to pay a big fine for this. But most of the time, you won't need to use public transit anyways, because all these cities are a lot more walkable than you would think. And you'll be able to see so many parts of a city that you never would be able to if you use transit. And biking is a really great way to get around a lot of cities for the same reasons as walking. But with biking, you can get everywhere faster, see all the things you would want to see in a city, and the city bikes in a lot of big cities are really cheap as well. Having a fanny pack is really useful because it's really pickpocket proof. And you can avoid carrying around an entire backpack all day by just having a little fanny pack. Downloading Google Maps for the places you're in is essential. You don't know how many times this saved me on my trip. If you don't have data or Wi-Fi, or if it's really bad service, having the maps downloaded, you can see everywhere you need to go while offline so you don't get lost. I find that the best times to travel are April, May, September, and October. These are the shoulder seasons where not as many people go, and the weather is still good. Don't waste time going around a bunch of gift shops. Instead, walk into a random store that you've never heard of and look for something there. It's usually a more authentic and better quality item than you would find in a gift shop, and if you find a really good place, it's going to be cheaper as well than the overpriced gift shops. Either exchange your money back at home or ask a local where the cheapest spot to exchange money is. There's just so many expensive spots to exchange money all over the touristy areas, so you can save a lot more money by finding a cheaper currency exchange place. Tipping is not that popular in restaurants. Usually people will just round up to the nearest zero or pay the exact price that it says on the bill. But also they don't decline a tip if you do choose to give one. Each country is a bit different, so just double check before you're going, but usually you would just round up to the nearest zero. I would stay in a mix of hostels or Airbnbs depending on the city you're in. If you're in a city to party, then I would recommend going to a hostel. But if you want more of a chill time in another city, then I would recommend being in an Airbnb. Visiting markets is a great way to know more about the culture of the city and to see what the locals value. You'll find all the best food here, and it's also a great place to spend time because they're really popular here. Keep copies of your passport and ID with you. Those are just really important documents, and if by any chance you lose it or they get stolen, or you just don't want to bring it somewhere with you, because I know a couple places you need to show your passport, you always have a backup that you can use in that copy. Having a reusable water bottle is really helpful when traveling around. Not only will it save you money, but you're also helping out the environment by not having to buy plastic water bottles all the time. Be courageous and try things you wouldn't normally do. There was no way I thought that I would try escargot, but here I am in Paris at a nice restaurant, and it was actually really good. And I don't just mean by food. Try some adventurous things that you wouldn't normally do when you're back home. You're usually a lot more open to doing things when you are traveling, so take advantage of that and do something that really scares you. Pack a lock and a towel so you can have them at hostels. Most hostels are going to need you to bring your own lock, or they're going to charge you an absurd amount, and the same thing goes for towels. So this is just a good way to save money. Portable chargers are going to be really useful in case you run out of battery and really need your phone. Bring both cash and card. There's a lot of places that only accept cash, and there's a lot of places that only accept card. So make sure you have both so you don't have to miss out on anything. And lastly, just keep in mind that not everything is gonna go as planned. It might rain on a certain day, and that activity that you really wanted to do might just get canceled. And I know that really sucks, but when something goes wrong, you usually have that day open to figure out something else you want to do, and it could end up bringing out the best memories of your trip. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my video on the best money saving tips in Europe. Please like and subscribe because it really helps me out, and I'll see you in the next one.